Hi, morning everyone. Delighted to be here. I'm told by Thomas that this is the 8th year, I gather, that Esri Singapore has been conducting its conference. Many congratulations. I see the crowd getting larger and larger every year, and I'm more confident that in the years to come, probably the crowd will spill over to other conference centers, conference halls as well. Today, I want to give you a bit of a glimpse of how the public service in Singapore makes use of geospatial applications, geospatial technologies, geospatial data to be able to enhance and come together to build the world's first smart nation. Now, I'll be the first to confess that SLA can't do this alone. This is an effort together with the many different public service agencies that we work with, including URA, NParks, ministries of education, of health, and so on. Many of you whom are represented today. But beyond that, Smart Nation is not just the work of the government. Smart Nation is also the work of each and every one of you. So if you take nothing away today, just remember, today the science of geospatial is in your hands. In each and every of your hands, perhaps your handphone, perhaps your smartwatch, you have the ability to collect, you have the ability to contribute, you have the ability to make and to gather intelligence, make everyday decisions that impact lives geospatially around Singapore. I wanted to start by saying today also that we are really in an exciting time. As Thomas has said earlier, this week, for the first time ever, we are holding Singapore's Geospatial Week. If you were to ask the team, the geospatial team at SLA a couple of years ago, whether the time was right, whether we would have been able to pull this off, nobody would have believed that this was possible. I think a couple of years ago, even as Esri started its user conference in Singapore, things were just getting started. But today we feel that there is a certain amount of traction, there's a certain amount of awareness, and more importantly, there's a certain amount of interest that each and every one of us play, not only in using geospatial data, but also appreciating the critical importance of how it affects our daily lives, that we have decided to give it a go. Have a geospatial week, not only to galvanize the community, users like you, me, but also the technology companies, as well as more importantly, the community. So as we look at Geospatial Week, we see it as an effort to bring together Singapore, bring together the masses, really to try to see how we can harness each and every one to be able to build this geospatial community going forward. What I also want to say today is that because each and every one of you have the power of geospatial in your hands, today effectively geospatial is commoditized. It is really democratized. Information today rests not necessarily in the realm of governments, in particular companies in the private sector, but with all of us. Geospatial effectively, as Thomas has said, is the leveler in which we bring together all other pieces of data to try to make sense. I told Jack a couple of weeks ago when I was in US that beyond just seeing geospatial as a geography-based subject or geography background initiative, actually geospatial is really the part which allows us to piece together history and geography at one go. History because it cuts across the different temporal times at different areas, and geography because it underlays the history of the world today. So really, at the end of the day, if you look at geospatial as nothing else, think of it as the common language that all of us understand. For those of you who listened to Prime Minister's speech at the National Day rally, geospatial is really the common language that doesn't require any language. So with this, I hope to be able to inspire all of you to think of how you can continue to commoditize and democratize geospatial so that not only you can benefit from it, but also everybody else around you. Now, I've gotten my team actually to look at a little bit of how geospatial evolved throughout the years. If you see from the chart, it is quite clear two things happened in the last 30 years. The first, obviously, is that the science, the technology of collecting geospatial data or location-based data has increased tremendously over the years. It has also become much cheaper and much easier to collect. But more important than that, really, is the ability to proliferate that data and information down to the masses, down to each and every single one of you. Somewhere in the 80s, you will see, about 1986, you will see the first desktop GIS. Now, can you imagine when Jack founded Esri in 1969? I'm almost sure he would never have expected the science of geospatial to traverse at this rate. But it also shows how much of a visionary he can be, or how much of a visionary he is, where he is able to see 50 years ago how important and how critically important geospatial is. Now, from 1986 up to the 2000s, you literally see a boom, okay? And for those of you who use wayfinding maps such as Google, Waze, and so on, you will be able to see that since then, the ability to consume data, the ability to make sense of location-based data has just shot up. So this comes back to my point where we say that geospatial is now commoditized, geospatial is democratized, and geospatial is in each and every one of your hands. But what does it mean for Singapore when we talk about wanting to use geospatial to build Singapore's the world's first smart nation? For us, smart nation is not a lofty goal. It is not about the big things, doing great with lots of money, lots of science and technology. Smart nation in Singapore is about each and every one of us making the simple decisions in life easily, effectively, efficiently. And that is really what Smart Nation is about. It is not about building big businesses. It is about the common man on the street being able to live better lives. So for us, we see geospatial as a critical important role, playing a critical important role because it allows us to be aware of one, our surroundings, two, our people, trying to make sense of that and trying to take a considered decision right down to the very simple ones. We have put together, or I've put together today, a couple of examples of where we see geospatial at work in Singapore amongst the different public agencies. If today you look at the way our parks organizations, parks agencies have been looking at it, you would probably never think that in Singapore we would be able to geotag every single tree to be able to put them on a spatial platform and to be able to maintain them. Today, our sister agency, NParks, has been able to track and look at the health of every tree under its maintenance, to be able to chart its growth, to be able to look at how it will grow going forward, and to be able to take remedial measures if the tree is not doing as well as it should. But beyond that, if you look at Trees SG and if you look at Coast to Coast, it is really about getting the public, getting the community involved in trying to see how we can build a greener, a more sustainable environment in Singapore. And all these contribute to building a better place for the community. One of Esri's taglines this year is "See what others can't." When I looked at this slide, my simple definition is that geospatial allows you to see what you can't, because obviously the trees are much bigger and larger, and humans by itself, you will find it almost impossible to go around Singapore counting every single tree. But with a geospatial platform, immediately you'll be able to know how many trees are under maintenance, what is the maintenance frequency, and more importantly, what is the greenery structure around Singapore is like. The next one, security. My particular favorite really is about the My Responder app, which involves not only just the paramedics, the emergency services, but also the community in coming together to help people who have just suffered a cardiac arrest. As all of you know, each and every single minute that a cardiac arrest victim does not get help diminishes the probability of saving his life. So what My Responder does is that immediately where there is an incident that happens, it will send up a ping to all the volunteers around telling these volunteers where exactly the victim is, and allowing the my responder, the community responder, to come together and help even before the ambulance arises. These critical seconds and these critical minutes help to enhance the survivability and the livability of the victim. But surprisingly, and when this app first started to respond to victims of cardiac arrest, it has now gone ahead and has morphed into a larger community role where you can also help to save or fight small fires that happens in neighborhoods. So again, every minute that you do not extinguish a small fire also means that the fire has the potential to burn larger, to burn faster. So when you have an incident on the ground, it allows the community to come in and share and contribute to be able to help so that time, precious time is saved. The other ones, the police and at SG and SG Secure, are really platforms that allow the security agencies to be able to come together and inform the public, inform the community with accurate and up-to-date data so that they know what is happening around them. So as you can see, I've given you two examples of how Singapore public agencies make use of geospatial data, not only in the sense of security, but also in the sense of building a beautiful Singapore garden. The third one is what I call geospatial to make everyday decisions. For a long time, SLA has pioneered what we call OneMap. OneMap effectively is a public-based data platform where businesses and members of the public are able to access the information, the platform for government data as well as for certain key business data. Businesses can take APIs and build on OneMap, but more importantly, it also allows the government to be able to proliferate up-to-date, accurate data to the masses. At the Geospatial Week opening yesterday, we have now announced that going forward, OneMap, instead of 2D, we are going to build the next version of OneMap, which is 3D. One of the things that you will find for geospatial is that there is an insatiable demand for data, for consuming data. And we believe that going forward, 3D data is the way to go, not only in the consideration or enhancement of the data sets, but it also allows other technologies such as augmented reality as well as virtual reality to come into play. So it is essential for SLA also to keep up with the times to build the next OneMap platform in 3D. The next two that you see, Moments of Life and One Service, are really platforms that allow the public to contribute to the development as well as to solving everyday issues in Singapore. In particular, One Service app, it allows everybody, every citizen to be able to inform public agencies of areas of concern or issues around their neighborhood so that the agencies or the public agencies can respond quickly and effectively. Without geospatial data, in the past it would have been a phone call and the member of the public would have to describe in extremely detailed terms, perhaps where the litter is, what the issue is, which lamppost, what color it is. But with a geospatial platform now, immediately you simply point to the map or send the ping on the map, and public agencies would be able to respond quickly and accurately, and you solve issues on the ground immediately. So all you can see today is that as we look at a smart nation, it is not about building Singapore into a high-tech future. It is really about making lives of citizens much easier, much better. The last one, SG enabled, really improving the lives of those who need help. Geospatial plays a critical role because it allows us to be able to create maps, heat maps of the vulnerable, of those who are able, who need help, and to be able to provide a more targeted approach to be able to work with them, as well as to be able to uplift them. Some of those that you see, SG enabled, is not purely a government initiative. Sometimes you also have the private sector coming in to chip in, perhaps as part of their CSR or perhaps as part of their mandate to want to help. So geospatial also goes beyond the realm of business. Geospatial goes into the social services sector, geospatial goes into the education field to be able to make sure that everybody leads better lives. So what I've shown you earlier are 4 examples of how the government agencies coming together and sometimes working with private agencies have been able to use geospatial to build a better Singapore. But at the end of the day, is geospatial purely within the realm of government, or should the government do all? My sense is that in the next coming years, you will see a stronger take from the private sector participating in various geospatial initiatives, as well as using geospatial initiatives to build on their businesses and build on helping the community. It is for this reason that we decided 2 years ago to try to set up GeoWorks, which is effectively an industry center, not only to bring together the governments, the public service, but also the big geospatial companies like Esri, who have been a firm supporter of GeoWorks, as well as even startups and scale-ups. 1 or 2 man companies who feel that there is a niche area in geospatial that they think they have a good idea, but they need some help to try to conceptualize and build their data or build their platform. We want to build a community. We really want to build an ecosystem where geospatial is not just in the realm of the public, in the private sector, but it is really for the whole country coming together. It's for this that we have created GeoWorks, where ultimately what we see is it's benefiting the community, creating solutions from problem sets that perhaps not many of us are aware of, simply because we don't belong to that segment. It is not something that we do because we think that there's a lot of money to be made, and I'm almost sure that for many of the geo partners that we have, it is not something that they do because they think that it will bring them to the next level of economic delivery. It is something which we believe truly that it will help build a better world and build better lives. Today, geospatial, at GeoWorks, our geo partners and geotechs are not only restricted to what you have, the companies in Singapore. We are agnostic to where you come from. As you can see from this map, not only are there startups, scale-ups from Singapore, from the ASEAN region, but also from Europe, all the way to US. At the end of the day, the community of geospatial doesn't start and end in Singapore. The community of geospatial may start in Singapore, but it will go beyond our shores. Geospatial knows no boundaries. Geospatial, to some extent, knows no language barriers. Geospatial is location-based on a map which anyone can understand. You, me, everyone around you can understand. And with that, we think that the potential of geospatial certainly can go beyond our shores. And if you harness the power of everyone around the world, you truly can multiply the effects of geospatial many times beyond just what you see. So today, if you're interested, we have a booth out there. Please come and join us and have a look. But as the last goal, I thought I should say this. We believe in a strong public and private people partnership, which means that it involves everybody. But increasingly, we are also seeing that amongst the community that we intend to benefit, amongst the community that you interact with, more and more, we need to build this element of trust. Trust because ultimately, geospatial data does contain, perhaps at some point in time, certain sensitive data which you and I, all geospatial users, have a responsibility to safeguard. In past times, where information is not so widely available, where the world is not so easily connected, you will obviously find that it's much easier to be able to safeguard certain information. But because our belief is also to try to proliferate data to the masses as much as we can, we also believe that every user today has a responsibility to be able to use the data and information wisely and responsibly. It is this trust that I think we need to continue to enhance, we need to continue to build, we need to continue to foster, and as a community, we need to come together and make sure that this trust never fails the wider community that we are trying to benefit. So beyond just enabling geospatial for Singapore's development, it is really about building the community, building a better world, and seeing how geospatial can come together and really change the world for the better. This is my last slide. Before I go, I should say a word of thanks to Esri. Esri has been at the forefront of trying to proliferate geospatial for many years. When I spoke to Jack and I asked him, when he first started Esri in 1969, did he imagine ever, or what was his dream for geospatial? And actually all he said was really, he felt that geospatial was important, but I think he never quite expected it to take the trajectory it did today. But I think today we are really at the cusp of the next geospatial evolution. Some may call it the geospatial revolution. Technology costs are fast coming down. Many of us, as I said earlier at the beginning, are now have the science of geospatial in our hands. What we do as a community, what we do coming together will really shape geospatial for the coming years. And with that, perhaps I can ask all of you who are already converts in this room, if you know of friends, especially the young, who are interested in this, get them involved. Help find a way where they can use geospatial to solve everyday problems. And I'm almost very sure in 10 years' time, where Esri continues its usual conference, instead of saying hundreds, you'll be seeing thousands on this stage. Thank you very much.